Ladies and gentlemen, let me start with a question that might make some of you uncomfortable. Why do some people work tirelessly day after day, putting in all the hours only to feel like they are barely getting ahead, while others seem to create wealth effortlessly? You've seen it. Friends, family, colleagues, maybe even yourself, working hard, sacrificing sleep, missing weekends, and still struggling financially. The answer isn't about luck. It's not about opportunity. It's not about intelligence. The truth is, working hard alone is not enough. Effort without direction, labor without leverage, and time without strategy is just busy failure. You can move mountains of work every day, but if you are moving in the wrong direction, you'll arrive nowhere. Today, I want to show you the real reasons most people stay broke despite working hard and how you can break free from this cycle. By the end of this speech, you'll understand not just what to do, but how to think differently, so your hard work finally creates lasting wealth, freedom, and opportunity. We will dive into 6 key principles, 6 mindsets and strategies that separate the people who struggle financially from those who thrive. You'll learn how to leverage your time, think like an owner, stack your skills, and avoid the pitfalls of being busy without growth. These aren't theories, these are practical, real-world lessons drawn from people who went from exhaustion and stagnation to building wealth with purpose. If you've ever felt frustrated that effort doesn't equal results, that hard work seems to lead only to stress and debt, this talk is for you. By applying these principles, you won't just work harder, you'll work smarter, with leverage, with strategy, and with a mindset designed to build wealth. Now, let's uncover the 6 key strategies that will change the way you think about work, money, and success. Ladies and gentlemen, let's start with the first truth that most people completely miss. Working harder doesn't always mean getting ahead. You may be putting in 12, 14, even 16 hours a day, thinking effort alone will make you wealthy. But hard work without leverage is like running on a treadmill. You're moving, but you're not actually getting anywhere. The key difference between people who stay broke and people who build wealth is leverage. Leverage is making your effort multiply, so a single action creates multiple results. It's about working smart, not just tirelessly. Let me give you a real-world example. Imagine 2 bakers. One wakes up at 4 bakes hundreds of cakes every day and sells them locally. Every hour she works directly translates to a cake. She is exhausted, but her income is limited by her time. The second baker invests in an automated oven, hires a few assistants, and develops an online delivery system. Suddenly, the same hours produce far more results, and her income grows exponentially. Both are working hard, but one is leveraging labor while the other is trapped by it. Leverage comes in different forms: financial, time, knowledge, and technology. Financial leverage allows your money to work for you, investing, acquiring assets, or using capital to create growth. Time leverage lets you multiply your impact by delegating, outsourcing, or creating systems. Knowledge leverage happens when you use your expertise in ways that reach many people instead of just yourself. Technology leverage, like automation, digital platforms, or software, can make a single action serve thousands of people. Consider a real-life story. A young software developer started building apps in his free time. He could have worked long hours coding for a single client and earning a fixed paycheck, but he chose leverage. He created an app, published it online, and marketed it to thousands. 1 hour of coding generated results for hundreds of users. Over months, this tiny initial effort compounded into a source of income that far exceeded any hourly wage. His hard work alone wouldn't have mattered. His leverage multiplied its value. Leverage is also about investing your effort strategically. Many people chase busywork, checking emails, attending endless meetings, or completing tasks that don't move the needle on income or growth. True leverage is knowing which actions will have the biggest impact, then focusing your energy there. Think of it like a seesaw. A small amount of effort applied in the right place can lift more than hours of effort applied blindly. Here's another example. A personal trainer could spend all day giving one-on-one sessions, trading time for money. But if she records training videos, creates an online course, or writes an ebook, she reaches hundreds or thousands while still maintaining her day-to-day work. She's working smarter, not harder, and her income potential skyrockets. This is the power of leverage. But leverage is not just about money, it's about freedom. When your effort is multiplied, you stop being trapped by the hours you work. You can spend time on what matters, learning new skills, investing, building relationships, or pursuing opportunities. Without leverage, you are trapped in the cycle of more hours to more money, which rarely creates true financial growth or freedom. Now, let's talk about mental leverage. Your mindset is also a form of leverage. If you continually educate yourself, read, and apply knowledge, every idea you gain can generate massive returns over time. Most people think learning is passive. The reality is that knowledge compounds. One great idea can save thousands of dollars, create multiple opportunities, or prevent costly mistakes. A famous example is the story of an entrepreneur who started with just a small online business. By learning marketing, studying consumer psychology, and applying new strategies, she could scale her business exponentially. She wasn't working longer hours than anyone else. She was leveraging knowledge, strategy, and tools to grow faster than her competitors. Here's the ultimate lesson: hard work is necessary, but leverage transforms hard work into extraordinary results. Without leverage, even the most tireless effort may leave you stuck. With leverage, a single hour can be worth a week's worth of ordinary labor. So ask yourself, where are you trapped by labor alone? Which efforts are yielding minimal results because they aren't multiplied by leverage? And where can you apply your skills, knowledge, and time so that your work grows exponentially? The answers to these questions will determine whether your hard work keeps you struggling or propels you to real wealth and freedom. Ladies and gentlemen, the path to financial success is simple in theory, but often ignored in practice. Work smart, find leverage, and multiply every action. Stop trading time for money blindly. Use systems, knowledge, technology, and strategic effort to grow results far beyond your hours. When you understand leverage, your work transforms from exhaustion into impact, from effort into wealth, and from business into freedom. Remember this: hard work is important, but leverage is the secret that turns hard work into real success. Start looking for ways to multiply your effort today, because every hour you leverage wisely today compounds into a lifetime of results tomorrow. Power of leverage. Let's talk about something even more transformative: thinking like an owner. Most people work hard, but they work like employees, trading hours for money, following instructions, and reacting to circumstances. The truly successful, the wealthy, and the influential think differently. They act like owners, not employees. What does it mean to think like an owner? It means seeing beyond today's paycheck. It means asking, how can I create long-term value? Owners focus on building systems, creating opportunities, and taking responsibility for outcomes, not just fulfilling tasks. They understand that control, responsibility, and vision compound over time into financial freedom and life mastery. Consider two people in a company. One is a hard-working employee who completes their tasks on time. They do exactly what is expected and nothing more. Another employee starts taking initiative, identifying problems before they happen, suggesting solutions, learning how departments interact, and thinking about the long-term growth of the company. When opportunities arise, promotions, raises, or profit sharing, which employee do you think the company will choose? The one who thinks like an owner is ready to step up because they have trained themselves to see beyond immediate tasks. Thinking like an owner also applies to entrepreneurs. A person who wants to start a business may focus on making a quick sale or earning a small profit immediately. But someone who thinks like an owner focuses on creating systems, building scalable processes, and investing in assets that generate revenue even when they are not actively working. They understand that wealth is built by creating structures that last, not just by chasing temporary income. Here's a real-life story. Sarah, a young entrepreneur, started selling handmade jewelry. Initially, she worked tirelessly, attending markets, posting on social media, and making every piece herself. But she realized that this approach limited her growth. She needed to think like an owner, not just a worker. She hired a few assistants, created an online store, and developed partnerships with local boutiques. Suddenly, her income multiplied without increasing her hours. She became the owner of a system, not just a producer of products. Thinking like an owner is also about taking responsibility, not blaming circumstances. Employees often say, "It's not my fault," or "That's not my job." Owners think differently. What can I do to make this work? And how can I improve the outcome? This mindset makes them indispensable, resourceful, and confident. It shifts focus from excuses to solutions, which is what separates long-term earners from perpetual strugglers. Owners also leverage relationships and knowledge. They know that no one achieves success alone. Networking, mentoring, learning from others, and collaborating strategically all multiply results. They don't just complete tasks, they build influence and create opportunities. A person who thinks like an owner is always expanding their circle, not just fulfilling obligations. Even in personal finance, thinking like an owner changes behavior. Instead of living paycheck to paycheck hoping for small raises, owners focus on investing, building assets, and creating multiple streams of income. They understand that wealth is not about how hard you work, it's about how smart you work and how much control you create over your financial life. Let me give you another example. A mid-level manager who wanted to grow their career. They could have continued following instructions, completing projects, and hoping for recognition. Instead, they started thinking like an owner, studying the business, suggesting improvements, mentoring team members, and learning leadership skills. Within a few years, they were promoted to a position where they could influence decisions, earn more, and even participate in profit sharing. Their mindset shift created their opportunity, not luck or random chance. Ladies and gentlemen, the lesson is clear. You cannot create wealth, influence, or freedom by thinking like a worker. You must adopt the mindset of an owner. Ask yourself, what systems can I create? How can I multiply my efforts? How can I take responsibility instead of assigning blame? How can I create value that lasts? The most successful people don't chase paychecks. They build control, value, and assets that work for them long after the initial effort is made. They understand that ownership isn't always formal. It's a mindset, a way of thinking, and a way of acting every single day. So stop asking, How can I work harder? Start asking, how can I act like the owner of my life, my work, and my opportunities? Because once you think like an owner, your hard work stops being just labor. It becomes a vehicle for freedom, wealth, and lasting success. Ladies and gentlemen, remember, working like an owner multiplies results, creates opportunities, and builds a life of independence. Adopt this mindset today and watch how your effort begins to produce results far beyond what hard work alone could achieve. Ladies and gentlemen, now that we've discussed leverage and thinking like an owner, it's time to explore something even more powerful. The practice you do in your mind shapes the results you achieve in reality. Most people underestimate the power of their imagination. They think success is only built through physical effort, hours of work, constant activity, and repetitive tasks. While action is important, the mind is the rehearsal stage for life's biggest victories. Every skill, every decision, and every achievement first exists in your mind before it ever appears in the real world. Consider professional athletes. A basketball player doesn't just show up on game day and hope for the best. Before the game, they visualize every play, every movement, every shot, and every response to the opponent. They mentally rehearse success thousands of times. When the moment arrives, the body doesn't hesitate. It performs exactly as the mind has prepared it. Mental rehearsal reduces hesitation, increases confidence, and primes action. Let's bring this closer to real life. Imagine a young lawyer preparing for their first major trial. They could just read the files and hope for the best in the courtroom. But the successful lawyer doesn't rely on hope. They rehearse the arguments mentally, anticipate questions, practice responses, and visualize presenting with confidence. When the trial arrives, they aren't improvising under pressure. They are executing a plan they've already rehearsed internally. The same principle applies to students preparing for exams. Two students may study the same materials for hours. One simply memorizes facts, while the other mentally rehearses answering questions, recalling information, and staying calm under pressure. When the exam comes, the second student performs smoothly because they've already trained their mind to handle the situation. Mental rehearsal isn't just for high-pressure events, it's for everyday life too. Consider a manager facing a difficult team meeting. Most managers react in the moment, often letting emotions or pressure cloud judgment. But those who mentally rehearse how to communicate clearly, how to handle objections, and how to remain calm approach the meeting with poise. The rehearsal ensures their mind and body are aligned, and their actions become deliberate instead of reactive. Even in entrepreneurship, mental rehearsal multiplies results. A young business owner might visualize launching a new product. They mentally walk through every step from creating the product to marketing it, handling customer questions, and managing unexpected challenges. By rehearsing potential obstacles and solutions ahead of time, they reduce mistakes, act confidently, and increase their chances of success. 1 hour of focused mental rehearsal can save weeks of trial and error in the real world. Let's also talk about daily habits. The way you respond to small frustrations, traffic mistakes, or disagreements is often a reflection of mental rehearsal. When you intentionally practice patience, composure, and problem solving in your mind, these traits become instinctive. Conversely, rehearsing anger, blame, or fear strengthens negative responses. Your brain learns from repeated internal practice just as much as it learns from external experience. A powerful example comes from musicians and performers. A pianist preparing for a concert mentally practices each note, each chord transition, and each expressive gesture thousands of times. This rehearsal not only reinforces muscle memory, but also builds confidence and emotional control. By the time they perform in front of an audience, the performance feels effortless because their mind has already executed it countless times. Even for personal growth, mental rehearsal is critical. If you want to become more disciplined, visualize yourself making better choices throughout the day, waking early, completing tasks on time, saying no to distractions, or handling challenges calmly. Your mind will prepare your body to follow the plan. Over time, these rehearsed actions become habitual, and your daily decisions reflect the person you've practiced being mentally. Here's the core principle. Your brain cannot distinguish between vividly rehearsed experiences and reality. The patterns you create in your mind, repeated thoughts, visualizations, and problem-solving exercises are training your neural pathways. The more consistently you rehearse success, the more automatic and natural it becomes in real life. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want results that exceed ordinary effort, you must train your mind before you train your environment. Mentally rehearse confidence, skill, clarity, and composure. Anticipate challenges, visualize solutions, and imagine your best performance. The time you spend rehearsing internally is never wasted. It's multiplying your results in ways physical effort alone cannot achieve. Remember, action without mental rehearsal is blind. Mental rehearsal without action is empty. But when combined, they create unstoppable momentum. What you repeatedly envision, you eventually execute. Your mind is the rehearsal stage of your future. Treat it with discipline, focus, and intention. Ladies and gentlemen, your thoughts today are shaping your reality tomorrow. Rehearse wisely, and the life you desire will follow naturally. Ladies and gentlemen, Now that we've explored mental rehearsal, it's time to confront one of the most underrated truths about success. What you do in private determines your public power. Most people are obsessed with recognition. They want promotions, awards, or attention, but they overlook the foundation that actually creates success. The reality is simple: the world rewards preparation, not luck or effort alone. What you do when no one is watching is far more important than what you do when everyone is watching. Consider an athlete preparing for a championship. Fans only see the final performance, the winning goal, the perfect shot, the record-breaking run. But nobody sees the hours of practice, the early mornings, the sacrifices, the repetition, the sweat. That preparation is invisible, yet it is what allows them to shine when it matters most. Without private practice, public performance is shaky at best. The same principle applies to professionals. Imagine a young lawyer preparing for a critical case. Their performance in court is public, but it is built on weeks of private preparation, reviewing files, anticipating objections, rehearsing arguments. The courtroom's success is merely the reflection of private work. Private practice is also about rehearsing habits and character. Consider communication skills. Someone may want to appear confident and persuasive in meetings, but if they never practice speaking clearly, thinking quickly, or listening actively in private, their public interactions will falter. The person who rehearses these skills quietly will perform effortlessly in high-pressure situations. Even creators on social media understand this principle, often unconsciously. Successful content creators do not just post videos and hope for engagement. They spend hours planning, scripting, filming, and editing, private effort that the audience never sees. Their public success is a reflection of the countless hours invested behind the scenes. One viral video is often the result of months of practice and experimentation. Let's take a business example. A startup founder may be expected to deliver a polished presentation to investors. If they have not rehearsed their pitch, anticipated questions, or refined their slides, the opportunity may slip away. But a founder who has privately perfected every element of their presentation appears confident, knowledgeable, and in control. Public success is simply the stage where private preparation is revealed. Private practice also applies to personal growth. Meditation, journaling, reading, and reflection are invisible activities, yet they shape the person you become. A person who invests in self-development quietly will demonstrate clarity, composure, and emotional intelligence publicly. The habits and mindset cultivated in private are the source of their public effectiveness. Here's a real-world example: a pianist preparing for a major recital. The audience only sees a flawless performance. What they don't see is years of private practice, scales, exercises, and hours spent perfecting each note. That private work builds confidence, precision, and artistry that is visible only on stage. Without it, the performance would falter under pressure. Another example is leadership. Leaders who excel under pressure have developed skills in private. They've faced challenges quietly, learned from failures, and honed decision-making. When a crisis arises, they do not scramble. They act decisively because private preparation has trained them to perform under stress. Their public power is a direct product of private work. Even small daily actions count. If you practice patience, empathy, and resilience in ordinary situations, you'll handle major challenges gracefully. Private discipline compounds into public effectiveness. Every quiet effort you make, every skill you rehearse, every habit you build in private multiplies when the spotlight is on. The lesson is simple but profound: never underestimate what you do when no one is watching. Public recognition is temporary, but private discipline shapes your future permanently. The person you become in private is the person the world sees in public. Ladies and gentlemen, the ultimate truth is this: your public results are always the reflection of private preparation. The hours, effort, and practice you invest away from the spotlight determine your performance when it matters most. So ask yourself, what am I practicing when no one is watching? Am I preparing myself to perform at my best, or am I relying on luck and improvisation? The answer will determine whether you remain average or rise to excellence. Remember, it is not luck, talent, or opportunity alone that creates greatness. It is the repeated, intentional, practice of excellence. Your private actions today are the public victories of tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, start building your power quietly, consistently, and intentionally, and watch how your public life transforms. Ladies and gentlemen, now that we've explored private practice, it's time to tackle a principle that can completely change how you approach your work, your goals, and your life. Your only true competition is yourself. Most people spend their lives looking sideways, constantly comparing themselves to friends, colleagues, classmates, or even people they see online. They're earning more than me. They look more confident. They got promoted faster. Comparison is everywhere, and it's one of the most dangerous habits for growth. Why? Because comparison focuses on outcomes over progress. It forces you to measure your success against someone else's journey, a journey you neither control nor fully understand. Instead, the real metric for success is progress against your past self. Ask, am I better today than I was yesterday? This is measurable, tangible, and fully under your control. Competing with yourself shifts focus from envy to improvement, from stress to action. Consider a real-world example. Two writers start a blog. One constantly checks follower counts, comparing themselves to popular bloggers. They grow frustrated, distracted, and eventually give up. The second writer focuses on writing consistently, improving their style, learning SEO, and connecting with readers authentically. Months later, they have a growing audience and steady income. The difference: the first competed with others, the second competed with yesterday's version of themselves. Even in sports, the principle is clear. A runner may not always win races, but if they beat their personal best each week, push their limits, and focus on improvement, they are winning. The medal or recognition is secondary. The real victory is outgrowing the person they were yesterday. Let's look at career growth. Many employees feel frustrated when colleagues get promotions or recognition first, but the question shouldn't be why them? It should be, what can I do today to be better than I was yesterday? By focusing on skill development, networking, and mastering task, progress compounds. When opportunity arises, the person who has improved consistently is ready to seize it. Competing with others often leads to distraction and stress. Competing with yourself leads to growth and results. Personal relationships also benefit from this principle. Are you more patient today than yesterday? Do you communicate more effectively or listen more deeply? Self-competition encourages continuous improvement, which strengthens relationships and personal influence. Comparison, on the other hand, fosters resentment, insecurity, and dissatisfaction. Here's another example: a musician practicing their instrument. Instead of comparing themselves to a virtuoso online, they focus on playing one scale better today than yesterday, improving tone, speed, or technique. In months, their skill leaps forward. Comparison might have led them to feel inadequate and quit. Self-competition allows them to achieve mastery. Competing with yourself also builds confidence and resilience. You begin to rely less on external validation and more on personal progress as proof of capability. Each day you improve, each habit you build, each skill you refine. You're creating a foundation of competence and self-belief that no one can take away. Even in financial growth, the principle applies. Instead of comparing net worth to friends or colleagues, focus on improving your financial literacy, saving habits, and investment strategy each day. Small, consistent improvements compound over time into substantial results. The benchmark isn't someone else's wealth. It's your personal progress. Ladies and gentlemen, the lesson is crystal clear. Comparison steals energy, progress, and peace. Your only competition should be the person you were yesterday. Every day you invest in growth, skill, and character, you win. Every day you focus on being slightly better than before, you create unstoppable momentum. Next time you feel jealousy, frustration, or insecurity, stop looking outward. Look inward. Ask, am I better than I was yesterday? Am I rehearsing the person I want to become? The answer will guide your actions and shape your results. Remember, success is not about beating others. It's about outgrowing your former self one day at a time. Each small improvement compounds, eventually creating extraordinary results. Your journey is unique, your growth is measurable, and your competition is internal. Ladies and gentlemen, the greatest victories come when you compete with yourself. Strive to be better than yesterday, not better than anyone else. That mindset will transform your work, your habits, your relationships, and ultimately your life. Ladies and gentlemen, we've explored leverage, thinking like an owner, mental rehearsal, private practice, and competing with ourselves. Now we arrive at the final and perhaps the most powerful principle: you must become the person before the prize comes to you. Too many people chase results, promotions, money, recognition, or opportunities, believing that achievement will somehow transform them into capable, confident, and successful individuals. But life works the opposite way. Your success will always reflect who you are, not just what you chase. You cannot skip the work of becoming the person capable of handling opportunity and expect results to fall into your lap. Consider the story of a young entrepreneur, James, who dreamed of running a successful business. He imagined a thriving company, high revenue, and recognition in his industry. But he quickly realized that he lacked essential skills: leadership, negotiation, financial literacy, and team management. Rather than chasing the prize blindly, he focused on becoming the person who could handle success. He studied leadership books, attended workshops, sought mentors, and practiced real-world decision-making. By the time the opportunity to expand his business arrived, James was ready. The success he achieved was not luck. It was the result of becoming the person capable of handling it. This principle applies in every domain. Consider an athlete who wants to perform at the Olympic level. It's not enough to want medals, applause, or recognition. They must first become the athlete capable of competing on that stage. They build endurance, master techniques, refine mental toughness, and train their mindset. When the day comes, the medal is merely a reflection of the preparation and personal growth that came first. The prize never makes the person makes the prize possible. Even in careers, this principle holds true. You cannot expect a high-level promotion if you are not already the person who can handle the responsibilities. It's not just about completing tasks, it's about cultivating the skills, habits, and mindset required for leadership. When you develop yourself first, opportunities will naturally align with your capabilities. Let's talk about personal growth. If you want to become confident, Don't wait for situations to force confidence upon you. Practice confidence daily in small ways. Speak clearly in conversations. Make decisions decisively. Take initiative and embrace discomfort. Over time, these small practices shape your identity. When high-stakes situations arise, you respond naturally because you've already become the person capable of handling them. Similarly, if your goal is financial independence, start by becoming financially literate, disciplined, and responsible. Learn how to save, invest, and manage money. Develop habits that prepare you for opportunity. Wealth comes not just from income, but from being capable of handling, multiplying, and protecting it. Real-world examples abound. Think of a musician preparing for a world tour. They practice relentlessly, mastering every note and every stage movement. By the time they step on stage, they are not simply hoping for success. They are the performer who can handle the pressure, the audience, and the spotlight. The prize, applause, recognition, or contracts is simply the reflection of the person they've become. This principle applies to relationships too. To build strong, lasting connections, you must become the person who embodies empathy, patience, and understanding. You cannot expect others to give what you do not first cultivate within yourself. Here's another story. A young professional dreamed of leading a high-performing team. They were ambitious but lacked communication and leadership skills. Instead of seeking the position immediately, they focused on becoming the person who could inspire, guide, and manage others effectively. Through self-study, mentorship, and daily practice, they transformed their capabilities. When the leadership opportunity arose, they stepped in confidently and excelled. Ladies and gentlemen, the takeaway is simple: results follow the person, not the other way around. Hard work, skill development, and character growth are prerequisites for opportunity. The prize is always a reflection of the person who is prepared for it. So ask yourself, who am I becoming today? Am I the person capable of handling the success I desire? Am I prepared for the opportunities that life will present? Every small choice, every habit, every rehearsal is shaping that answer. The ultimate truth is this: people change results, not results change people. If you want wealth, influence, freedom, or recognition, start by becoming the person who deserves it. Train your mind, cultivate your habits, and prepare your character. When you become that person, the opportunities you've been waiting for will arrive naturally. Ladies and gentlemen, remember this: the prize will always reflect the practice being every single day. Stop chasing outcomes before you are ready. Become the person who can earn, handle, and multiply your success, and everything else will follow.